It is easier to associate a new habit with a new context than to build a new habit in the face of competing cues. It can be difficult to go to bed early if you watch television in your bedroom each night. It can be hard to study in the living room without getting distracted if there were it can be hard to study in the living room without getting distracted if there's where you play video games. But when you step outside your normal environment, you leave your behavioral biases behind. You are not battling old environmental cues, which allows new habits to form without interruption. Want to think more creatively, more to a bigger room, a rooftop patio, or a building with expensive architecture. Build a build a break from the space where you do your daily work, which is also linked to your current thought patterns. Trying to eat healthier, it is likely that you shop on autopilot at your regular supermarket. Try a new grocery store. You may find it easier to avoid unhealthy food when your brain doesn't automatically know where it is location in the store. When you can manage to get an entirely new environment, redefine or rearrange your current one. Cu- Create a separate space for work, study, exercise, entertainment, and cooking. The mantra I find useful is one space, one use. When I started my career as an entrepreneur, I would often work from my couch or at the kitchen table. In evenings, I found it very difficult to stop working. There was no clear vision between the end of the work time and the beginning of personal time. Was the kitchen table my office or the space where I ate meals? Was the couch where I relaxed or where I sent emails? Everything happened in the same place. A few years later, I could finally afford to move a afford to move to a home with a separate room for my office. Suddenly, work was something that happened in here, and personal life was something that happened out there. It was easier for me to turn off the personal side of my brain when there was a clear dividing line between work life and home life. Each room had one primary use. The kitchen was for cooking, the office was for working. Whenever possible, avoid mixing the context of one habit with another. When you start mixing context, you will start mixing habits, and the easier ones will usually win out. This is one reason why versatility of modern technology is both a strength and weakness. You can use your phone for all sorts of tasks, which makes it a powerful device. But when you can use your phone to do nearly anything, it becomes hard to associate it with one task. You want to be productive, but you're also conditioned to browse social media, check emails, and play video games whenever you open your phone. It is mishmash of cues. You may be thinking, you don't understand. I live in New York City. My apartment is the size of a smartphone. I need each room to play multiple roles. Fair enough. If your space is limited, divide your room into activity zones: a chair for reading, a desk for writing, a table for eating, and bed for sleeping. You can do the same with your digital spaces. I know a writer who uses his computer only for writing, his table only for reading, and his phone only for social media and texting. Every habit should have a home. If you can manage to stick with this strategy, each context will become associated with a particular habit and mode of thought. Habits thrive under predictable circumstances like this. Focus comes automatically when you are sitting at your work desk. Relaxation is easier when you are in a space designed that purpose. Sleep comes quickly when it is the only thing that happens in your bedroom. If you want behaviors that are stable and predictable, you need an environment that is stable and predictable. A stable environment where everything has a place and a purpose is an environment where habits can easily form. Chapter summary: small changes in context can lead to large changes in behavior over time. Every habit is initiated by a cue. We are more likely to notice cues that stand out. Make the cues of good habits obviously in your environment. Gradually, your habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. The context becomes the cue. It is easier to build new habits in a new environment because you are not fixing against old cues. Chapter 7: The Secret of Self-Control. In 1971, as the Vietnam War was heading into its 16th year, Congressman Robert Steele from from Connect from Connecticut and Morgan Murphy from from Illinois made a discovery that stunned the American public. While visiting the troops, they had learned that over 15% of US soldiers stationed there were heroin addicts. Follow-up research revealed that 35% of service members in Vietnam had tried heroin, and as many as 20% were addicted. The problem was even worse than they had initially thought. The discovery led to a flurry of activity in Washington, including the creation of the Special Action Office of Drug Abuse Prevention under President Nixon to promote prevention and rehabilitation, and to track addicted service members when they returned home. Lee Robbins was one of the researchers in charge in a finding that in a finding that completely unpended that accepted beliefs outcome addictions. Robbins found that when soldiers who had been heroin users returned home, only 5% of them became re-addicted within a year, and just 12% relapsed within 3 years. In other words, approximately 9 out of 10 soldiers who used to heroin in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight. This finding, this finding, this finding, this finding contradict the prevailing view at the time, which considered heroin addiction to be a permanent and irreversible condition. Instead, Robbins revealed that addictions could addictions could spontaneously dissolve if there was a radical change in the environment. In Vietnam, soldiers spent all day surrounding by cues triggering heroin use. It was easy to access. They were in they were engulfed by the constant stress of war. They built relationships with fellow soldiers who were also heroin users. The and and they were thousands of miles from home. Once a soldier returned to the United States, though he found himself in an environment devoid of those triggers. When the context changed, and did the habit Compare this situation compare this situation to that of a typical drug user. Someone becomes addicted at home or with friends, goes to a clinic to get clean, which is which is devoid of all the environmental stimuli that promote their habit, then returns to their old neighborhood with all their previous cues that caused them to get addicted in the first place. It is no wonder that usually you see numbers that are the exact opposite of those in the Vietnam study. Typically, 90% of heroin users become re-addicted once they return home from rehab. The Vietnam studies হবে পরে. Till then, Assalamu alaikum.